this is what they're doing. They're maximizing the Steph Curry next 2 years. But he also said, I can see myself playing for 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And so I don't know what happens after those 2 years, but I do know they have picked a lane. There was this two-timeline era for a while. They were kind of trying to bring along Kuminga and some of those other young guys and say, you guys are going to be the torch, you're going to pass the torch to those. That's not happening anymore. This is now Steph Curry's all in. We're just going to keep making trades and trying to maximize these 2 years. Steve Kerr was lined up with him. Jimmy's lined up with him. Draymond Green's lined up.
Yeah, all the veterans.
So, you know what? For the next 2 years, they got clarity. And I think Steph will, as David said, I think he does age well. I just can't believe he's going to be 38. That's unbelievable. He's still, I was going to say he still looks like he's 12, but then I see videos of him earlier in his career, and I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
He looks like he's 12 and now 15 or 17.
Well, speaking of age, he's not the only unk in the league. At the age of 37 in just over 4 months, Steph is the 8th oldest player currently on an NBA roster. Now, he will go down a spot when Al Horford inevitably signs somewhere. Steph trails a group that includes CP3 and LeBron James. And just in case you were wondering, the oldest player since 1950, how about this name? Kevin Willis. You guys remember
Kevin
him?
Willis,
He ended his career in April of 2007 at the age of 44 years and 224 days. LeBron would need to play on opening night of the 2020-30 season to pass Willis. So in a league that seems to be getting younger and younger and younger, LeBron and Steph continue to just really push that needle, both making all-NBA second team last season. DDJ, do you think Steph and LeBron have one more title run in their careers?
Look, the last thing I'm going to do is sit here and count Stephen Curry and LeBron James out. I'm not doing it. And with the parity in the league, who knows what will happen in the next few years. They can slide in, injuries happen for other teams, things like that. Who knows? I'm not counting those dudes out. But what's the most fascinating thing about this is the LeBron side of this. Steph, as we said, we kind of know what these next few years are going to be like. He's going to be a warrior. They're going to retool in a couple years. They're going to figure this out. LeBron James, at the beginning of February, we felt like we knew what the end of his career was going to look like. He's going to play with the Lakers for a couple years, try to get a championship, and that'll be it. The Luka Doncic thing, adding him has changed the trajectory of the Lakers, and it's changed the trajectory of LeBron James's career. Now we know, I can imagine he's going to finish this year with the Lakers, despite all the stuff that him and Rich Paul have said and everything's happened in the offseason. But the year after that, I have no clue what that year of LeBron's career looks like. The Lakers don't know. LeBron doesn't know. I don't know if he'll be a Laker. I don't know if he'll end up at another team with another contender. This is probably the most question marks we've had about LeBron in his career since the beginning. The guy plans out everything. Now so much is up in the air, and that leaves a possibility of a championship run, or who knows, as he closes this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the LeBron James situation will be interesting to see how it plays out over the next several months and over the next years to see where he plays next season and how this season plays out, presumably his final year with the Lakers. But I think when you look at where the league is sitting right now, we had a team last year that won 68 games, won the title, had 2 players over 27 on the roster, and their oldest player was 31. And they just gave the 3 stars on their team, who are all in their mid-20s or younger, about $1 billion, it felt like, combined in long-term contracts, right? So they obviously need some health. Obviously, see the Oklahoma City Thunder raising the Larry O'Brien trophy there. They need some health and some luck to be able to continue on and be the team that ends this era of parity that we're in. But if you look at how the playoffs played out, you saw the Pacers in the championship round with the Thunder, another young team with depth. You saw the Knicks, a pretty young team with a decent amount of depth, and Minnesota Timberwolves, again, another team with a young group, a young nucleus led by Anthony Davis. I think we're seeing the league trend towards younger teams, deeper teams, being able to hold up in the physicality and the intensity and the pure athleticism you need to succeed in the league right now. So we'll see about teams like the Warriors and the Clippers and the Lakers that are more built around veteran players, older teams. But I think we're seeing a bit of a sea change, and I think the Thunder finally are positioned to be the team to end this era of parity we've been in and create the next dynasty in the league.
So I could have sat here last July and said a very similar thing about the Celtics. I think I probably did in July. And then the year before that, I think we said the same thing about the Nuggets, who had won a championship and had this young core that seemed like they had just hit their prime at the right time. And we just keep having new champions. Like each year, we think somebody is destined to go be the next dynasty. There is another. They seem built for success in the long term, and each year it doesn't happen. And so as much as I agree with you, Tim, that the Thunder are extremely well positioned, they finally broke through, it seems like they could win for the next 5 years, all evidence in the NBA for the last 6-7 years has been that somebody else is going to win. And when you go now it's 27-year-olds winning, and this year it was obviously 25-year-olds winning. Well, what if it swings back and it's the old teams winning? What if it's just the healthiest team winning? And so I'll never count LeBron and Steph out because those guys still are playing at all NBA levels. And I think, look, if you say who's better positioned this year, probably the Warriors because they have clarity. They're not trying to save for Luka Doncic's next 5 years. They're just in it for the next 2 years with Steph.
Yeah, David, we'll give you the last word on this one.
I was talking about. I was talking about LeBron and Steph maybe the next couple. I think I'm with Tim on this year, though. This year is OKC's year. I think that the only way that an old team wins is if the OKC adds like a guy who's 155 years old to that bench to raise sort of the average of their team. Because this team is built sort of differently. Right, I did that in my head. I had a calculator.
Yeah.
I think it's a little different than the Nuggets and the Celtics in the fact that there was so little margin of error. You look at the Nuggets, they lose a guy like Brown. They lose some of those people. The Celtics, you deal with the injury or two, and that knocks them off. The Thunder are just built with these waves of guys and this depth and this youth that they can overcome this in a different way. This is the last dynasty. This is the final dynasty in the NBA, and it's a lot of that because of resilience, because of the fact that they have the depth. They had J-Dub was injured all through the playoffs, and they still won the championship. I just think it's hard to imagine anybody usurping OKC this year, but I'm not counting LeBron and Steph out maybe in the future if something else goes haywire.
Well, we got to continue to talk Western Conference after the break. We go coast to coast, and we have to make it an all-East edition with my guy Tim Bontemps in the building. Starting with new Knicks coach Mike Brown on how New York is going to look a little different this year.
I like to play fast. And so we're going to try to play fast and make sure that the floor is spaced the right way. And then defensively, we want to have a sense of physicality without fouling. We want people to feel us, and we want the fans to know that we're going to give multiple efforts on that end of the floor.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do there. The Knicks ranked in the bottom 5 in pace last season. Tim, is speeding things up key to their success?
I have great respect for Mike Brown. I think he's got a chance to do a very nice job with the Knickerbockers. However, every single coach that gets into a new job says they're going to play faster. Now, Mike Brown did that with the Sacramento Kings. He had a lot of success. The biggest thing the Kings did was move the ball and have pace and space with the Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis running pick and rolls. Can Mike Brown have Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns do that? That remains to be seen.
Next up, Jalen Brown, who was back in the lab in Spain after his offseason knee surgery. Ramona, how will he fare as the 1A in Boston this season without Jason Tatum, of course, out with injury?
You know, I think Jalen Brown relishes moments like this. He tried to play through that injury all throughout the playoffs, and I think he'll relish being the 1A here. But there is a good update on Jason Tatum. He's walking again. He's out of the boot. He's walking again. Said he's been doing 6 days a week in rehab, and I think he's ahead of schedule and coming back from that Achilles.
That facility in the Mediterranean that the NBPA has as a sanctuary is a pretty